Hey, in this video, I'm going to show you how I built an AI support agent for an e-commerce store that automatically pulls in queries, classifies the query, then searches through a vector database for answers, drafts an email reply before alerting our team to review the email and send it. Now, for businesses who receive a large amount of emails from customers asking questions, at least 90% of them are the same. These systems are amazing just because they save that time that you can now devote to actually growing the business. And if this is your first time here, my name is Michele, and over the past 12 months, I've built these exact AI solutions for over 40 businesses, and I've taught over 15,000 people in the process. With that being said, let's dive in. All right, so I'm actually going to test it before I even explain exactly what everything does, just so you get to see the final outcome. So I'm going to send myself an email saying, question about the return policy. All right, so I asked it the return policy plus the shipping location. I'm going to say, thanks in advance, and you press send. Now this right here will send it to the base email. So this will be, in theory, the email that receives all the incoming queries from the customers. As you can see, we just got the email. I go here, I want to execute the workflow. So this is going to run. Is that going to classify the email? It's going to then pull the answer from our vector database. It's going to drop an email, and then it's going to send us a message on Telegram informing us that a new inquiry came through. We have to review it and actually send the email. As you can see in Telegram, we said new inquiry received from the name. About is the question of the subject line. And then the action is email drafted to your email. So they know exactly that they have to go to their email and actually look at the email before sending it. And if I go to my email here, I can see that on drafts, I have one new draft. You can see that we have the return policy, we have the shipping locations, and James, Novamart customer service team. All right, perfect. All right, cool. So let's go through the whole process step by step. Now you have an idea of what it actually does. It takes emails with questions. It then looks through our vector database, which is a database that has different documents, and then sends back an email reply, and then informs the team to then go in drafts and actually send it to the customer. All right, so the first step here is actually incoming emails. So this will be the trigger on any incoming emails that come through. In this case, we have an inbox, and for any businesses really, they have inboxes like a company name support.com, and that's the inbox that they use to answer any incoming FAQs. So they have this, and this would be the domain or the actual inbox that we use to collect and then run the automation for the first step. So in order to connect our Gmail, we have to go here, obviously choose the Gmail trigger, coding credential, and then you can sign in with Google and it'll take you through the whole process. It's very, very easy, just as a regular sign in with Google sort of thing. And then it's asking us for the poll times. The poll time says, hey, we're looking at your email, but how often do you want us to go through your email to make sure that we have all the questions? In this case, you can put minute, hour, day, week, month, every X custom, but I think every minute is fine. It depends on the amount of queries that they get. So I would ask the business, hey, how many queries do you get a month? How many queries do you get a day? If they say, hey, we get about 1,000 a day or 100 a day, whatever it is, maybe we can run it every hour or every 5 minutes, right? But speed to lead and speed to questions is important because that builds up the brand and it just makes it part of better impact on the customer as well. So we can obviously do every minute, every hour, and what's all. So again, it depends on the amount of inquiries that they get. Then we have the event. So the event is, hey, what has happened? Like, what is the thing that we're watching for? In this case, is a message received, which is the only option here, right? And then simplify, just fine, because we just want to keep it simple with the way that the actual node is set up. Once this is done, right, which is again the email trigger, so I can actually fetch test event. I believe that we don't have any emails anymore. Let me actually send myself an email so we can test this. 100. Hello, hey, I need to know the shipping policy you have. When I send it, now I have to wait. Of course, when you have to run this for a customer, you have to automatically run this every 1 minute. But for this case, we just have to test. So I'm just gonna send it to myself and wait for the email to come back. As you can see, we got the email here. If I go here and I can fetch test event, and we get the snippet, which is the email body, which is in this case is, hey, I need to know the shipping policy you have. And that's the thing that's gonna be sent to the next step to actually classify whether this is a promotional thing or an actual FAQ. So the next step here, actually, before we get to this point, is we have to set the variable. Now, why we do this is because when we look at all these, we can get a bit overwhelmed and we don't really know where the actual text is. So we just want to basically make it as simple as possible for the next steps to pull in information from Gmail. So we add in a set node, which you can find here. So set node, edit field set. This allows us to just pull in variables from a list of variables. In this case, it's just snippet, and we call this email body and call it whatever we want, basically. This makes it so much easier for the next steps to actually pull in information from Gmail without having to go through all these different pieces of information. Once this is done, we go to classify emails. Now we have to have this step because not all emails are FAQs. Some are promotional, some are just general emails. In this case, we just wanted to check whether they are promotional or support service. So if I go in here, and this, by the way, is text classifier, right here, text classifier. This allows us to classify text based on specific rules. If you go in here, text to classify will be the JSON email bodies. So let me actually run the previous steps. Let me go here and pin, so I don't have to rerun the whole email. Let me actually execute step. As we can see, we have, hey, I need to know the shipping policy you have. And this will be the thing that we then pull here saying, hey, classify this text. Now, here's where we start adding the categories. So the category is like, what are we classifying it for? Like, what are the rules and what's the logic here? In this case, we have promotional, we have support service. Now to add a category, you have to press this button right here. You can put the name. So in this case, let's do support service. And then description is, hey, this is the name of the actual rule or the category. This is the description of what it is. So in this case, for promotional, we said marketing offers, discount, sales pages, newsletters, which are typical sort of promotional emails. And then we have support service, which is customer inquiries, troubleshooting, complaints, or help requests. That's the only two categories that the classify email node or the text classifier will take into account when it needs to look at the inquiry that came from the customer and classify as to whether they are one or the other. Then we have options, so system prompt, which is basically saying, hey, please classify the emails provided by the user into one of the following categories. Categories right here, just so it knows that these are the categories. And use the provided formatting instructions below. Don't explain and only output the JSON. I believe that this is a standard prompt. Yeah, it is a standard prompt, so you can just add this. But this allows the actual node to be more strict and understand exactly what it is. Now, in order for this to actually work, this doesn't just work on its own, it works with AI. Let's say we have to go here, the model, we have to choose a model here, and we have all these models. I typically go for the OpenAI chat model because it is I go for quality plus price. I think this is fine. To connect to your OpenAI, you just have to go to platform.openai.com, go to the dashboard, go to the API keys, create a new secret key, and then you can put your name and then create a secret key and then bring it back here to paste it. Don't worry about the organization ID, you don't need it. And as well, this, don't worry about this. One important thing here is that for a company to run this, they do have to pay for the credits, which you find in your profile, billing, and you find it here. But I obviously would look into how many inquiries they get and then make the price based on that. But the price is like 1/10 of a cent per run. All right, and now that we connected AI, what this happens, so how this works is we have the email body, which is incoming emails. It will then go here saying, hey, can you classify this using AI, right? It will have categories, it will have strict rules. It will talk to the AI to make sure that that's how it thinks. That's the actual like program. And then based on the two different sides, we have promotional and support service. In this case, we actually didn't put anything for promotional. So if something is promotional, it just stops there. We don't want to really do anything with it. We only want to send it through if it's a support service. So that's why we drag this across and we put it to the next node, which in this case is an AI agent, which is really the main sauce of the whole system. And so once we classify the emails, we say, hey, okay, this is an FAQ. This is like actually something that we can answer. Let's go out and actually review and draft an email for the customer using the data that we have. Now, if you haven't checked out my AI RAG agent system, then make sure to check it out right here on the top or below. It'll show you exactly how we set this up step by step. So you get to see the whole process. But essentially what it is, it's an AI agent that gets incoming emails. In this case, it gets the inquiry from here, which is the same input as this. But now we know that it's support service because we went through this step. And what it will do is I will go through a vector database. Now, a vector database is something that looks like this, which is composed of different rows. These rows come from this document. Okay, so we have a document, which is essentially where all the information is stored. So account logins, all the different FAQ questions that people usually ask, which is typically what a company would have in the first place. And then now we basically transform this into vector database, so embeddings, in this case we call them, that will allow the program to actually take the question that's coming through, match it up against any of these embeddings, and then give us back an answer in the simplest way. So the way to do this is we have an AI agent right here, the prompt, which is the user message. This right here will say, hey, what is the thing that we're fitting into the AI agent? In this case, is email received, which you can find from the email body right here. So this right here will be the from, because when we actually have to drop the email, we have to know who the email is coming from and the name as well, just so we can personalize the email plus send it to the right person. And that's about it for the user message. In this case, we don't require any specific output format. We don't enable any fallback method. This just means, do you want it in a specific format like JSON or anything like that? We don't want to do any of that. And also, do we want to enable a fallback method? This means that if OpenAI does not work, you want to use another AI to test. In this case, you could or could not put this on. I mean, typically I wouldn't have it on because the chat model right here works fine. But you can have it on even to be more safe. Now, the system message here is the system, or is the message that we tell the system, like, hey, you are a helpful, intelligent XYZ that does a few things. So the prompt for the AI agent follows through a very, very specific structure that we use for most of the AI agents that we build. In this case, it has an overview. So you are a helpful assistant that answers any inquiries from our e-commerce store called Novamart. You'll be drafting email replies for the incoming queries that come through. And then tools, this will be the tools that the AI agent is connected to. In this case, it's two. The first one is pulling in information from the document that we have, which is the one right here, which not right now is stored in the vector database in Supabase. And the second one is the email draft, right? Because this tool will be used to draft any emails back to the user to make sure that they have the corresponding answers based on the information that comes from the vector store. Some rules here is we have to always use the vector store before answering any questions and drafting any emails. This is very, very important because sometimes what the AI could do is that it can draft an email, but it will not have any context or any information that's actually valuable for the end user to give them an answer. So it's sort of saying, hey, what is the return policy? I reply to you first, and then I go out and look for the information. We have to make the order actually make sense, which is why we tell it, hey, look for the information first, and then you can go out and drop an email. And then some extra information. My name is James. Make sure to include that when dropping an email, because at the end, what it did basically in the email is said, hey, thank you. This comes from add your name, like bracket add your name, and then it will put the actual company name. In this case, we want to put James because again, that's reality of what emails look like. They put names instead of just adding variables. So we give it that context as well. All right, once this is done, then we have the chat model. In this case, we can add here, same way as we did before. We can go to OpenAI and we have to connect to our account and use 4.1 mini. Again, this is perfectly fine for this use case. Now, what we have to do is connect to tools. Now, the way that an AI agent works is that it gets the inquiry. So it gets an input like, hey, drop an email, or hey, look for this information, or do something. And it will then think through what it needs to do using its model. And then to take action on what it actually needs to do, it uses tools. So in this case, because we have two tools, again, one for the draft and one for the vector database that actually looks for the information, we connect these tools to the corresponding softwares. In this case, to connect it to the vector store, we have to go here. In this case, well, I mean, it's vector store, so you have to press plus. Let me see if I can move this. There you go. Supabase vector store, and you come to this page. Once you get to that page, so let me delete this. You'll be here. The first thing you have to do is create a new credential. And again, you should have a service role secret and a host, which you can find here. And then we have this page right here. The first thing you have to do is obviously make the account. Then you have to make the database. And again, I put a whole video on how to do this down below, so make sure to check it out. And now we have to go back here, go to the API keys, and you can then reveal, copy the secret and paste it here. And then you can press save, and then you're done. All right, cool. So once we are done with this, we can then use the operation mode. Again, operation in n8n just means what is the thing that we want to do. In this case, is retrieve documents. As tool for AI agent, there's a different options here. And now the description is work with data inside the vector database to answer any questions, which is fine. Let me delete the extra E right here. And then the table name, which will be the table here, right here, table editor. Yeah, this will be the one that's containing different information. As you can see, we have Novamart, e-commerce, general information. We have go to your cart, XYZ, all the different information that it needs to use in order to then answer any incoming queries. And once that's done, we have the limit. Again, actually, I don't know why I put this to 4. This basically says the number of results fetched from the vector store. I typically will leave it blank. In this case, of course, if you have a really, really large vector database and you don't put a limit, it will basically use more credits than if you put a limit on X amount. So that's why we add a limit here. And then we include metadata. And then we have to put the query name, which is match_documents, which is the database that we're using. All right, then we have the embeddings, which are a way for OpenAI to take the incoming query, like, hey, what's the return policy? Turn that into numbers so that it can match them to the embedding. Again, this will make much more sense once you see the video of me explaining the AI RAG agent and the fundamentals behind what it is. But in a very simple way is that text is turned to numbers, numbers will match numbers to give you an answer. To do this, we have to put the embedding, which in this case is another LLM. And we can use OpenAI. Connect to OpenAI, and you can leave the model to text embedding 3 small. All right, once the vector store tool is finished and we now can look for the information in the vector database, we can now connect the second tool, which is the email draft. Because again, the sequential order goes in the vector database to find the email, or to find the information in this case, sorry, and then go to the email to then draft the email to give an answer to the customer. So in this case, we have to use an email draft. You can go here, Gmail tool, and you come on this page. You have to connect your email. So it's the same exact process as the one before. Create a new credential, and then you can sign in with Google. And then you have to use the tool description. So the tool description you can set automatically. The resource, which would be what is the thing we're doing in this case? It's not label, it's not message, and it's not thread, it's draft. And then the action that we're taking is we're creating a draft. And the subject line, something good n8n has is that we can actually let the AI define this parameter, which is the subject line of the email. And then the email type, which would be text. Then we have the message, which is the email body. And we can also press the button right here, which will let the model define this parameter, which is amazing because you don't have to do anything. And also on top of that, we also have to send the email to someone. So we have to press to add option to email. So whoever we're sending the email to. And then the info at example.com will be replaced by the email that we mentioned that we're giving the AI agent to take action. So we can just press this. And now the AI will already be smart enough to be able to think about who are we sending the email to based on the input that it was given. All right. So let's put this to test. Let's see how it actually works. I think we can just test this. Yeah, let me go here. I'm gonna press this button right here, which just tests this right here. It will classify it. We'll say it supports service. Now what it will do is it will look through the vector store. But again, first of all, the first step is it will think through its memory or its LLM, its brain, to then think about what it needs to do. So the first step is finished. And then the second step is drafting an email. And then it goes back and it thinks through and before it gets to the next steps, which is Telegram in this case. But before we get to that, let's look at the draft of the email. Let me go here, go to draft, refresh. And then the shipping policy tells me all of this. Now, one thing we want to change ideally is maybe the size or the length of the email. I think this is pretty long. So to do that, to make any changes, you can go here and then the rules, make the email draft a medium length, keeping it concise with a good structure. So let me test this again. Let's see if anything changed. And this is how you usually go about iterating and making sure that the AI agent does what you want it to do in the best way possible. Now, if we go back here, you can see that we made another email, which is more structured. Maybe the size isn't, it's not shorter, but the structure is better, I'd say. So now we can say, and we can leave this as this, to be honest. If I was a customer, I would want some sort of answer like this. They would give me the best information with all the prices and stuff. Cool. All right. And again, all the information comes from here. So the shipping policy and options comes from here, which it pulls the information from. All right. Now, once this is done, we can then go to the last step, which is basically informing the team. Now, why do we do this? Is because the email, again, you saw it wasn't sent to the customer. It was drafted. We have to notify someone that they have to go to the inbox and actually send the email to the customer if they like it. So that's why the last step is Telegram, which is send a text message, which you can find right here. Telegram, send a text message right here. And then to connect it, you have to create a new credential. You have to get the access token. If I go to Ask AI, so start a new session, now this will tell me this step by step. And I recommend you guys always use this sort of feature when you're not really sure as to how to do it, because it is better than ChatGPT, because what this does is that it actually looks at the n8n community, it looks at the different questions, and it'll give you a step by step as to how to do it. So the first step is start a chat with the bot father, and then you do different steps until you get the actual access token. All right, so once you connect to your Telegram, you can go here. The resource again is message because we're not drafting or chat or fallback or file. We're just sending a simple message. The operation is what is the action that you're taking? In this case, we're sending a message. The chat ID is something that you can actually take. So let me show you. Let me execute this step right here. So I executed the step. Now if I go to Telegram, I should see the message. Let me show you right here. I just got another message at 3:50. And now, in theory, this will give me a chat ID. So if I go here, chat ID, this is the chat ID that will be used to then send the text to. This is great because the chat ID allows it to give us the answers in the same thread of information or conversation in this case. All right, now once this is done, we have the chat ID. Now we have to put the text. So what is the thing that we're putting in the message? Well, in this case, I thought that it'd be good to add new inquiry received from the name of the person and also the about, which is a subject line. You could, in theory, change this and add more stuff, but I thought that this would be the most relevant to have for this agent as a text message. So we have new inquiry received from name, about, subject line here. And then the action, it says email drafted to your email. So again, if you saw on Telegram that the message itself was email drafted, go to the email, informing someone, they know the name, they know the about, like the actual question, and they can then go out and send the email. All right, so that right there is a full walkthrough of the customer support AI RAG agent. And by the way, if you want the full template of this agent so you can import it into your own account, then you can go to the link down below, which will take you to my free school community. You can go to Classroom, you can go to Templates Vault, and then you can see their latest video, which will have a n8n blueprint. And if you have no clue on how to import into your account, that's totally fine. You can even go to the welcome here, which will give you a video on how to import it into your own account. Now, there's only one disclaimer, not everyone gets in, so feel free to apply down below and actually put some thoughts into your answers because I'd be happy to have you inside and see you crush it. All right, I hope you found value from this video. And if you like these sort of videos where I show you workflows or even want to watch me build one from scratch, then check out this video right here where I actually build a human-in-the-loop AI sales agent step by step on n8n. With that being said, I'll see you in the next one.